I like to slide my thumb down against that leaf, have my forefinger underneath the stem, and just break it like that. That's all you got to do. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I thought I would do a video on when to harvest garlic-scapes. If you grow hardneck garlic, I can't speak to softneck garlic, I've never grown them, but if you grow hardneck garlic, at a certain point in the development of the garlic, when it's growing, it sends this stem up. It's got leaves, foliage, and it sends a stem up to create, it's kind of like a flower, but it's not exactly a flower. It's that thing like a flower, a bulb. So it's sending that up, and it wants to put energy into creating those. Basically, it's going to create a head that's got like little tiny garlics in it. And you can save those and you can plant them, but it's probably not the most effective way to get, if your goal of growing garlic is to grow big fat garlic, that bulbul's really not much use for that, although you can use them to get garlic growing, and I've played around with that. It's a whole separate video, I don't want to get into it here. Main thing is that if you want the bulb at the, the clove, you're growing the garlic to get the garlic that's growing out of the bottom, right? The actual bottom of the plant that's underground. If your goal is to get a nice big fat garlic, then removing that stem, it's called a garlic-scape, is in your interest, because the plant is putting energy and it's nutrition and energy and resources and water. It's putting all that energy into creating that thing. Right? It's got two ways of perpetuating its existence. It's creating the garlic bulb at the bottom, and that thing, if you just leave a garlic in the ground and don't do anything, you put one clove in the ground, it creates a bulb in the ground, and that bulb might have 5 or 6 cloves. If you do nothing, the next year you're going to have 5 kind of skinny garlic plants growing out of where you left that garlic head in the ground. So the garlic's trying to put energy into the ground, save energy in the ground to grow garlic for the next year. It's also covering its bases, and it's creating that bulbul at the top, and that bulbul might have 20 little tiny garlic looking things, and if you plant them, they'll grow too. So the garlic's doing everything it can to create another generation of itself. But you want the one that's in the ground, right? That's the one you're going to be cutting up in your food, right? So if you take away that plan B, the bulbul, then the garlic has no other choice, not that it's choosing, but basically it's going to put all its energy into that bulb, and you're going to get bigger, fatter garlic. And I did a podcast with Ron Goldie. He's a teacher at an agricultural university, and he explained that, I can't remember what the number he said off the top of my head, something like 20% larger, something like that. This 20% larger garlic bulb if you take the garlic-scape off. So it's in your interest to take off a garlic-scape. Another reason to take off a garlic-scape is that you can eat them, right? So if you're growing garlic, as soon as you start seeing those garlic-scapes, you don't, someone like me, I basically have garlic every day, almost sometimes at lunch and supper. I use it in everything, and my whole family does, so we all stink. So we don't really notice it on each other. And there's arguments that's good for you and so on and so forth, but this is not a nutrition podcast. I'm not going to talk about that. But basically, it's a food resource, that garlic-scape. So removing the garlic-scape makes sense to get bigger garlic. It also makes sense because you can eat it. So you're basically doing 2 things at once. You're making your garlic bulbs bigger, and you're harvesting food to eat. Of course, you can just chop it up and put it in with your stir fries and whatever you're cooking. Just use it the way it has the flavor of a very mild garlic. So if you had a recipe called for 1 clove of garlic, you might want to put 2 garlic-scapes in, which would be like half a cup of garlic-scape, right? Because it's milder. So you can use it fresh and things like that. Or you can do another thing that I do, because I have so much garlic. I got like 250 garlic grown right now. So I can't possibly keep up with the garlic-scapes. So I make a kind of pesto out of them. It's almost like a preserved garlic. And I've done videos on, I did a video on that last year. It wasn't the greatest video in the world, but if you want to see how I do it, watch that video. If I have the time, I'll do another video. There's a window of time where I got to harvest all my scapes. It's around now. And so I'm kind of busy dealing with that, and it's difficult to find the time to make a video. But the gist of it is you take the garlic-scapes, you put them in a food processor, you add some salt and some lemon and some oil. And I also put, there's a lot of herbs that in my garden, they are, if I don't cut them, they'll go to flower, so I cut those herbs off and I throw them in with it as well. So it's basically like, if I'm gonna make a nice pasta dish, I might throw 2 heaping tablespoons of this pesto in there with whatever I'm cooking to get that garlic flavor. And I just put those, put them in little mason jars and stick them in the freezer, almost like freezer jam, and use them throughout the winter. Basically, I put all those in the freezer, and I basically use that as garlic until my garlic bulbs are ready. Once my garlic bulbs are ready, I use garlic all summer long and, into, March or whatever. And then once I run out of garlic, I use all of that garlic pesto as garlic. And if I run out by then, I gotta buy it at the store, but right? It's just the way to get the most out of your garlic. You're making the bulbs get bigger, and you're also harvesting an edible ingredient from your garden. So I'm going to take you around and show you how to know when to do that, because there's a sign you're looking for when it's time to harvest those. Let's go have a look. Got a nice big bowl here for harvesting them. All right, so here's a garlic bed where actually these are my biggest, best garlic, I think. It's just a really sunny spot. I grew, I think I grew zucchini or cucumbers here last year. And I harvested all the garlic-scapes off of this bed yesterday and made garlic pesto, but I noticed I missed a couple. So these ones are ready. So, all you do is you just snap it off. Same way you kind of snap an asparagus. Or what you're looking for is when it's made one turn like that, right? The garlic comes up and then it goes down and then it goes sort of back up, right? Once you've got a circle, that's time to harvest them. Here's another one. Okay, so this whole bed had that appearance yesterday, so I harvest them. Basically every day I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 beds of garlic, and they're all starting to do this, but some of them get more sun than others, so some of them are ready now. So let me show you another bed here. Ooh. All right, so here's another bed, and these ones aren't ready yet. Here, I'll snap one off and show you. Like this one here is, right? This one here has made a turn, right? So it's ready, okay? But this one, I'm gonna harvest it anyway, really hasn't, it's like 3/4. I mean, you can harvest it anyway, right? But I find once it makes 2 turns, it gets kind of less tender at the base, right? 1 turn, it's basically tender, the whole thing's tender. And so it's grown as big as it can grow and retain its tenderness. Once it makes 2 turns or 3 turns, it's getting woodier and woodier at the base, right? And also, once it starts, every turn it makes after 1 or 2, you notice this is where this part here is going to become the bulb. Okay, so after it starts making 2 or 3 turns, this part starts getting bigger and fatter, right? So you know that the garlic is putting more, this is what's going to become that bulb. That's sort of, it's like a flower, but it's not. It's going to have all kinds of little tiny, looks like garlic cloves in it. So every time it makes a turn, this gets a bit bigger and a bit thicker and a bit heavier. So it's just that much more energy, resources, whatever, that the garlic's directing into that part of its, procreation process, as opposed to into the bulb where you want it, because you want nice big fat garlic bulbs. Here's a close-up of me snapping one of these babies off. You've got the last leaf of the garlic, and so I like to slide my thumb down against that leaf, have my forefinger underneath the stem, and just break it like that. That's all you got to do. Here's a bed I think I got to harvest today. So this is one of my other really sunny beds. Here's a head that's actually it's almost made 2 turns. It's gone down, back up, and starting to go back down again. Right, so this bed, if you see that, you got to pick them all, right? Because they're all going, right? And you can see this, the head is starting a little bit fat, a little more developed, right? right? So today I got to pick this entire bed, and it's really not that much of a chore to do it. How about I move the camera back a little bit, speed the film up, and pick this whole bed and show you how long it takes. Probably takes 2 minutes. That's all it takes, not a big deal. If you want to know my recipe for making garlic pesto, I could do another video on it, but the last video I did on it, I couldn't remember the recipe. I just made it yesterday. So basically, when I take, you know, this is basically the amount, this is a 3 by, I think it's a 3 by 12 bed. So if you got a 3 by 12 bed, or a 4 by 8 bed, or maybe a 4 by 10 bed, you take all the scapes off your garlic, assuming, I mean, you got to think about mine are like that size, right? So if yours is skinny, you might need 2 beds. And you put in a bowl, cut them with the scissors to break them up. Throw them in a food processor. Put a cup of oil, cup of water. You can put 2 lemons in, or you can put a lemon and a half a cup of vinegar, 2 tablespoons of salt, and you know, I would say 4 good handfuls of herbs. You don't have to put the herbs in. The herbs need to be harvested now, so I just dovetails with the activity. All right, I'm gonna go inside with this bowl just full of herbs and garlic, right? Throw that all in the food processor until it looks like guacamole, right? Kind of like a buttery, smooth green thing, you know. It's basically, it should kind of look like guacamole, same color, same texture as guacamole. Doesn't have to be perfectly pureed, but you know, puree it to the point where everything's reasonably well pureed. So, is that a pure pesto? I know there's some Italians out there saying, "What? That's no, I don't." I'm just, for lack of a better term, right? But it's basically preserved garlic scape with herbs, right? It's just a great handy ingredient for throwing into various things, and because it's sometimes I make some of it without the herbs, so I can use it for dishes that, you know, wouldn't use the Italian suite of herbs. You know, so normally I would make the pesto with, you know, oregano and savory and maybe some sage and some things like that, right? So I would use that for that style of cooking. But sometimes I make the pesto without the herbs, so it's just garlic and a bit of lemon and salt. Basically, lemon and salt is like acid and salt. It helps preserve. For doing a more Asian style cooking, right? Because you don't want to have oregano and things, not necessarily in that style of cooking. You want to have different flavors in that, right? So you don't have to put the herbs in that. They're not essential. It's just they got to be used. They got to be used up this time of year. So it makes sense to use them. Here's a bed where very few of them are ready. Some of them are, and some of them aren't. So here's one that's gone, you know, basically all the way around, right? But there's other ones in this bed, like this one here, right? Just a U, not even close. And there's a couple others in this bed that aren't even that far along. So I'm gonna, you know, and I got enough to do with all the stuff I just picked. So I'm gonna give this bed, you know, another couple days, right? So, you know, I don't plant all my garlic on the same day, and so you break up the chore of I grow a lot of garlic. Right? I try to grow enough where I don't have to buy garlic at all, right? So you have enough to save for seed, and you have enough to eat as well, between the garlic bulbs and using the scapes as well. But by not planting them all, basically, there's probably 3 or 4 weeks in the fall. Do it over a stage of 3 or 4 weeks. So, and also the different beds in my garden, you know, the different beds in my garden are just, you know, they have different rates of growth. Some of them get more sun, some of them have, you know, different soil qualities and so on and so forth. So that's a benefit that they're not all ready at the same time. You know, a lot of the things that are A lot of the things you might want in an agricultural setting, commercial agricultural setting, where you want everything to be harvested on this at the same time for whatever reason, for efficiency's sake. It doesn't make sense for the home garden. You kind of want things in dribs and drabs and trickling in so you can keep up with it, because you got a busy life, you got a full-time job, you got a family, you got other obligations. So it's good to have it broken up like this. So the fact that this bed isn't ready is great, because I got enough to do. I just noticed this one, just to give you a sense of, here's that bulbul in a sort of earlier stage of development. Here's one that's further along, right? I was a little bit late in getting to this one, right? This one's gonna, but this will, open up to the size of, like a fig, about the size of a fig, I would say, when it reaches its full size. Anyway, so I was a bit late in getting to this one, probably a bit more tough at the end, and this probably have to remove this part to make pesto with it, because that's just not, it's really, when it's this small, it's just not developed. So you can sorry, pointing at the wrong thing. When it's this small, it's really not that developed. You can grind it up for your pesto. Anyway, it's time to make pesto and time to get going with that. So I hope you found that interesting. If you're growing garlic in your garden and you're starting to see these funny looking things, snap them off, get them off of there, okay? Because it's the time of year to do that, and you can use them in your cooking, you can preserve them. It's just a one more great resource that you can pull out of your garden and save some money and just really enhance the flavor of your food. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden.